everybody, this is Christina with Maple and Sunshine Boutique. I just wanted to do a quick tutorial today on my new Pocket Full of Sunshine wallet. It is a super cute little scrap buster pattern and has two multi-card slots, a zipper pocket, an ID window pocket, and a cash slot for your cash and receipts. This is a really fun, quick sew, and it's very versatile. You can do this in vinyl, which this one is. It's got a vinyl option, a fabric option. Whoopsie. This is the fabric option. So this is actually cotton lycra. You can do cotton lycra, cotton woven. This one does not have the optional zipper pocket. So again, you can customize it, personalize it, make it what you want, but it is just a really fun little sew. And I hope that you enjoy it. Please let me know if you have any questions after this tutorial, and I hope it was helpful. Let's start by going over your actual pieces. Once they're interfaced, this is what you're going to have. You will have your clear ID window vinyl, your piece of Tyvek. You can also use Olifun or landscape fabric as mentioned in the pattern. You will have your zipper pocket lining interfaced with your Decaville light with a 1/2 inch perimeter all the way around, and you've got your little rectangle cut in the center. That's part of the pattern piece. You have your exterior zipper pocket. Again, you have your SF101 interfaced to that with a 1/2 inch perimeter hanging over of fabric. The card slot piece, and if you're using vinyl, well, vinyl or leather, but sometimes vinyls especially will have little fuzzy bits once they're cut. What I like to do is grab a lighter and very carefully and quickly just go around the edges to singe those little fuzzy bits, and then for the card slots, go ahead and fold it where the slot is so you have both sides, and just run it down each slot quickly, and then do the other slot, run it down, and again, you want to do this really quickly so you're not melting or damaging your vinyl. So you have that, and then you have your ID window slot. You have your, this is the fabric version. In this tutorial, we'll be doing both a fabric and a vinyl version. This is a fabric exterior, and I've gone ahead and fused my exterior wallet piece that I've cut with my SVG, or you can use the pattern piece, to my 8x6 piece of exterior fabric. Same thing for the lining with the Decaville Light lining piece that I cut with the SVG, and also a pattern piece if you don't have a cutting machine. And I've also fused that to my lining fabric as mentioned in the pattern. What you want to do once you have these two pieces is take your contact cement or your fabric glue or whatever your preferred method of gluing this down is. I like contact cement just because it has a really nice firm hold. Actually, first you're going to want to trim your exterior fabric so that it is approximately 1/2 inch overhang. So we'll do that. This doesn't have to be perfect, it's just so you don't have too much excess fabric and it gets bunched up in the back. So we'll go ahead and do that, especially on the corners. You don't want a bunch of fabric bunched up on the corners. Now, just so you're aware, you can actually swap out a fabric exterior with a vinyl lining. The only thing to keep in mind is that if you choose to do that, you're going to have to edge coat your lining. If you're doing like a vinyl lining with a fabric exterior, you'll edge coat the part that you're doing in vinyl before you assemble your wallet shell. Okay, so we'll just take your glue, whatever you're using. All you need to do here is just apply a thin layer about a 1/2 inch around, all the way around. This doesn't have to be perfect, it's just to hold these edges down. And then what you want to do is gently fold over your fabric. You don't want to pull too hard because you'll bend your stabilizer and it won't keep its nice shape. So the easiest way that I found to do this is to fold all of your edges in first. So you have all 4 edges tucked in and your corners are still loose. Okay, and then let me see if I can zoom you in here and get a closer view. And then for your corners, you want to just really slowly make little pleats so that as you go, you're just kind of pushing one more little bit in, and that will give you a nice, smooth, rounded corner. Let me see if I can focus in that. There we go. So that's now that you've got your pleats on the back, you've got a nice, smooth, rounded corner on the front. I'm going to go ahead and do the other 3 corners off camera and then do the lining as well the same way. While we're here, I will go ahead and just go over the vinyl version since we're doing both in this video in case you're doing one version and want some clarification. Most of the pieces are the same. Again, you have your Tyvek. Let me zoom back out here. Okay. You have your clear vinyl. You have your ID slots and your window, your card slots and your ID window slot. You have this is going to have a vinyl lining and a vinyl exterior. And then you have your zipper pocket exterior and your zipper pocket lining, both that have the interfacing applied with a 1/2 inch overhang of fabric on all sides. So let me go ahead and glue those corners and I will be right back. Now that we have our lining and exterior pieces with the corners folded over, I swapped out my lining, so it's the same wallet, I just decided to use a different print. And I've got just clips on the corners while the glue is drying just to keep the corners from popping back up. The reason in the pattern that you have different size, there's 2 versions of the exterior side stabilizers. The vinyl version, your side stabilizers, let me zoom you in here a little bit, is all the way to the edge, all the way around, and then there's the 3/4 inch space between the 2. So it goes all the way to the edge, and then this is the spine. The other version, when you're doing the fabric, is 1/8 of an inch shy on all of the edges, and then you still have your 3/4 inch space. So the reason for doing that is that the vinyl version, you're going to be edge painting at the end. This one, obviously, you will not because it's fabric. This keeps the stabilizer out of the edge so that you're not seeing it in your finished product. But I just wanted to hit on that really quickly before we move on. Everything from this point forward is going to be identical almost in the finishing process with the exception of a couple of notes in the pattern, and they're both just related to the edge painting, and I'll point those differences out as we get there, but the actual construction itself is the same from this point forward for the fabric version and the vinyl version. So I'm just going to focus on finishing up one wallet for this tutorial now that I've shown you the differences between the 2. I've got some little fuzzies on my vinyl here, so I'll take care of those really quickly before I stick these guys together. There we go. So this is kind of awkward because your lining is actually slightly smaller than your exterior. So if you hold them up, you're going to notice that there's just a little bit of a gap. And what you need to do to make sure that you don't have a bubble in your spine is to glue in this order. You want to put some of your glue on just the edges, the short edges, which will be the outside front of the, I guess the opening of the wallet, not the spine. So you'll have it on just the two short edges and only on the edge, nowhere in the middle. You don't want to glue the center because it needs movement to be able to fit properly. So just right down the edges and line up one edge and glue that down in place. And then you want to, in addition to gluing it, grab some clips and clip it very, very well. I mean, don't be afraid. I'm going to grab some more clips off of my sewing table because you don't want this to shift. This is very important. So I'm going to just clip this up. And then once you have one side secured very well, you are going to take your other side and pull it, and it's going to make the exterior buckle slightly, but you want to make sure that those short ends meet. And again, glue in addition to clips. So let me go ahead and clip this all the way down, and just be very careful to line your edges up exactly, because this is your finished edge that you're going to be edge painting on. Let me find one more clip. Where did they go? Found them. Okay, I'm back. All right, so we have, you'll see here that we have both edges clipped and there is a bow in the exterior. And then in order to get rid of that, to kind of seal all the edges up, what we want to do is add just a little bit of glue now that the sides are secure. And you can wait for your glue to dry on the edges. I'm not going to do that for the sake of the video. Stop! Don't run away. I'm getting glued. Okay, so sorry about that. My glue ran away from me. Go ahead and apply a little bit of glue to the long edges now. And again, just try and stay within about a ½ inch of the edge. And let's do the other side. Stop. This glue doesn't like me tonight. Okay. And then in order to make that ugly little gap go away, go ahead and close your wallet. And you will notice that as soon as you close your wallet, the gap is gone. And you can go ahead and carefully press those two long edges into place. And then also clip it as many clips as you feel like you need to. Don't be shy with the clips. I'm going to go grab some. Let me just grab the whole bucket here. So clip away, just shift if you need to so that the edges line up exactly. And keep your wallet closed. You don't have to put one on the spine. You can put one like on both sides of the spine, because if it's bent, it's going to be difficult to get a clip into the spine, so you could just put them on either side there, so it's not working against you. There we go. There we go. Just clip all the way around, make sure it's securely in place, and again, this is the bottom, so your gap has gone away, and we're just going to press those edges to stick the glue together really, really well. So let's clip this end up. So this is actually the finished wallet exterior shell. This is basically the shape, size, everything that your finished wallet is going to be. This is what you're going to see. So your lining and your exterior. Go ahead and leave your wallet closed while the glue is drying. You don't want to do anything else with this until the glue is completely dry. And we'll go ahead and work on the interior while this is setting up. I just wanted to make a quick note here. Although the actual assembly is the same, I just put together the vinyl one. This is the fabric one, and it is really important when you're doing those exact same steps. For the fabric version, you need to make sure that your glue doesn't get on that 1/8 of an inch of fabric on the outside, because it might end up on the edges and it'll be visible, and you don't want to ruin the pretty fabric on the outside of your wallet. So I just wanted to show you guys that really quickly so that you don't end up making a mistake and ruining your fabric after putting that hard work into getting it to where you are. So we'll head over to the sewing machine in just a second and get started on the interior. Let's jump right into your zipper pocket. What you'll need for this step is the zipper pocket exterior, the zipper pocket lining, and the zipper. And if you only have a longer zipper, you can cut it down to size. This is a 7-inch zipper, which you can see is more than long enough for this. And all you need to do here is fold your pieces in half to find the center. You can put a little snip, or you can mark it, you can just crease it, and you know, see where it is based on the crease. But we just want to mark our 2 centers. Try not to fold your Decaville stabilizer while you're doing this. I'm just pinching the fabric. Okay, and then we want to put these 2 pieces right sides together, centered. So we will, let me find the center here, and on the bottom. So this is what it's going to look like. You have your zipper pocket lining, and your exterior will extend on both sides past the lining. All you need to do now is sew around the rectangle that is cut out of your zipper pocket lining stabilizer. That's where your zipper is going to go. And you're just going to follow right inside the line of the Decaville. And a little trick when you're doing these zipper holes is when you get to the corner, instead of sewing right up into the corner, sew about a stitch away. Turn it at a 45-degree angle, and then go ahead and do 1 stitch at a 45-degree angle. Turn it again, and then do the same thing for all 4 corners, so that it's at a 45-degree angle to the corner instead of right up into the corner at a 90. Go all the way down. Do the last corner. Go down. Do the last corner, I'm sorry, 1 more corner, and then right back to where you started, and back stitch at your beginning and end. And then all we have to do now is right where you just sewed through, you're going to snip both layers and go all the way down the full length of it. Once you get about a 1/2 inch away, you're going to snip up into the corner, but not through the seam, and then do that for the other, so you've made a little Y. And then do the same thing on the other end. Snip all the way down. About a 1/2 inch before the end, you're going to make your Y. And again, get as close to the corner as you can without actually sewing through the seam. And then take your exterior and push it up from the bottom through the hole, and then do the same for the other side. Push it up from the bottom through the hole, and then give it a little tug. So now your zipper pocket will look like this, and you just want to kind of gently tug on the corners to smooth out any little creases or puckers there. So you'll have your exterior right side out, and then the lining is right side out, and they're now wrong sides together. The next step that you're going to take is to, you'll notice on these, you have the 1/2 inch overhang of fabric. You'll need to fold, using the interfacing as a guide, fold that 1/2 inch seam, 1/2 inch overhang over all the way down both long sides, but not the ends. You're not doing anything with these ends, the ends of the exterior or the ends of the lining, only the sides. And then once you do that, you're going to also do the same thing for the lining. So you'll fold that 1/2 inch in, and then what you'll ultimately have is both edges folded in. Get a little closer. See if I can get it to focus on this. There we go. So you'll have both sides folded in, and your edges will still line up evenly. I'm going to go ahead and go do that and press that, and I'll be right back. Now that your edges are pressed in, this is what you should have. You've got your zipper opening, and then on both long edges, your 1/2-inch seam allowance, or I'm sorry, not your seam allowance, your 1/2-inch overhang has been pressed over on both pieces with the ends left alone. You will notice that in the little area where the zipper hole is, that there's a little bit of a pucker. That's normal because it goes from an angle to a straight edge back to an angle. It's a very minor angle, so it should not have a really obvious pucker there. You can just tuck it in as you go. At this point, go ahead and if you are using a directional print or something that you want to have your picture more visible, this one, it doesn't really matter because it's just kind of like a geometric print. Your zipper pocket is going to be like this. So you'll want your fabric to be up and down, and then left to right. Decide if you want your, say you had like a picture here that you wanted to be part of the primary focus when you have your ID showing, or here when you had your card slots showing. I mean, they're both going to be visible. You're going to see it. It just matters which side you want it on. The zipper, when it's closed, should be up. So when you have it in your wallet, it's going to be like this. And then this goes on the right side. So your zipper will be like this when you have it done. So your zipper is going to want to be up. If you say you wanted this print to be near the ID window, you would just put it like this. Hopefully that makes sense. Go ahead and center your zipper in the window here, in that little rectangle. You can use double-sided tape to hold it in place. I'm not going to, just for the sake of time and the fact that I've done this so many times. Go ahead and sew all the way around using a 1/8-inch seam allowance. Don't forget to pull your zipper tab inside of the opening while you're sewing. It's easy to forget. And try and make sure your edges stay aligned while you're doing this in case they get tucked into this seam. There you go. Go ahead and move my pole out of the way. Zipper is in place. And just trim your threads on the front and the back if you've got anything on the back. And then you can just go ahead and trim off your excess zipper about 1/4 to 1/2 inch away from the seam. And then use your lighter to melt the ends so that it doesn't fray. And I don't have my scissors right here, so I'm using my snips. They're not working very well on this. Okay, there we go. So at this point, you have your zipper pocket almost completed. All we have to do now is take one short end of the exterior and match it up with the other short end of the exterior so that they are right side together with the folded parts still folded in. Line those edges up and real quick, sew these together using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and back stitch at your start and stop. And make sure that your edges stay even. You'll want to start and stop about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge just to keep the seam from overhanging on the edges. If you don't, it's not the end of the world because you won't really see this, but it just gives it a nicer finish. Now that you have that sewn, you're going to turn the entire, this is a tube, and you're going to push the lining inside of the tube. so that now the exterior is right side out, and then if you look inside, this is the right side of the lining, and you want to fold, keep your edges tucked in. Where your zipper is, as your folding point, fold it in half, lengthwise, so that the zipper is one folding point, and then that seam you just created at the bottom is your other folding point. Go ahead and clip everything in place. And starting, let me see, once you get to where the lining, let me zoom in a little bit. Sorry about that. So once you get to where the lining ends, as you're clipping, just tuck that about 1/8 of an inch away from the exterior edge so that those raw edges don't poke out, and then continue to sew all the way down to the seam that you created at the bottom. I would recommend starting about 1/8 of an inch away from the top where the zipper is, just to give it a nicer finished look, and then do that on both sides. Now that you have both of the sides sewn at a 1/8 inch seam allowance, you're almost finished with your zipper pocket. I went ahead and took this over to my table, and what you want to do is from the bottom, measure up 3 1/4 inches and draw a line directly across your zipper pocket that is parallel to the zipper. And go ahead and sew, starting 1/8 of an inch from the edge where your other seam is. You can backstitch here and just go directly across, following that line all the way across your zipper pocket to the other side. And again, stopping at about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And again, you can backstitch here. So what that does, let me trim my threads on the front and back. That actually closed up your lining and gave it a creasing point, so when it folds in the wallet, it just, that seam there helps it fold a little bit better. And then everything, just open your pocket area up, make sure that everything is closed up the way that it's supposed to be, and we will move on to the card slots and ID window before we go any farther with this. Now we have our wallet exterior shell and zipper pocket completed. We're going to move on to the card slots and the ID window slot. This is the card slot piece, and I have it laid on my work surface with the 2 rounded corners at the top, and the card slots are going to be on the left half. I've already gone ahead and marked my center point that is parallel to the card slots from top to bottom. And then I've also gone ahead and applied my double-sided tape. And your double-sided tape is going to be, let me see if I can focus here on this piece. So you'll have double-sided tape 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom, just below each slit, and then just below the center line when you're holding it with the card slots on the bottom part. Okay, so now we're going to remove the backing of the double-sided tape under the first slot. So if you're looking at it how we laid it out on the table, you'll have the one that is 1/4 of an inch in, and then the second one is what we're removing. You'll take your Tyvek or your card slot backing and align that with the double-sided tape. So it just covers the edge, and it's centered over your slot, covering both holes. So this is what your piece is going to look like now. Oops, sorry, I'm a little crooked. There we go. This is what your piece is going to look like. And you're going to flip it over to the right side. And starting just inside of one hole on the card slot on the left, you are going to leave a long tail to start. Go ahead and sew all the way down. I'm going to adjust my tension here real quick. Since I'm just going through thin vinyl. Go all the way down the slot on the left side of the slot, which is actually the bottom, and go just inside of the other dot. Pull your work away, leaving a long tail again. Snip that. Flip. So now you will have sewn just below that slot. Go ahead and flip your work to the wrong side again. And I keep a little awl in my clip bin so that when you pull the tail, it pulls a little loop, and it's just easier to just pull that tail through. And you can go ahead and tie those off and heat seal them so that they don't come undone. I don't have my lighter here, so I'll do mine later. There we go. When you're heat sealing these, you need to be very careful that you don't melt your Tyvek or landscape material, Olifun, whatever it is you're using. Those are all very heat sensitive materials. I'm actually grabbing my lighter. Bear with me because I won't be able to get to that later. Okay. So just a really, really quick little heat seal so you don't melt your card backing material. So back with the corners at the top, we're going to remove the backing from the one that's 1/4 inch from the edge. Fold your card slot material all the way to the left and then press it firmly in place. Remove the backing from the next card slot and then fold your card slot backing material. Don't pull it too hard because you'll pull it off of that tape, but you want to pull it so that it just folds where the edge of the tape is, and then press it down onto the tape here. So that what you're left with after you fold it back up is 1/4 inch space from that edge. Go ahead and flip it over, pull your tail long, and then repeat the same thing just inside the hole all the way across. And then stop just before you get to the other hole. Flip your work over and pull your threads to the back. This is a great method to give your work a much cleaner, more professional looking finish. It's not necessary if you do want to back stitch at the start and stop. That's fine too if you're not comfortable doing this. Oop, and I melted my material just a little bit, but it's not going to be seen from the front. Gotta be careful. Okay. All right, so again, let's put it back at the starting position, the rounded corners at the top. What I want to do at this point is take another piece of double-sided tape and my ruler, and not from the outside edge, but from the edge of the card slot backing, measure up 1/2 inch. And you want to go ahead and apply your double-sided tape 1/2 inch up from the edge of your backing material. So from the far outside edge, it's actually 3/4. But from the edge of the backing material, it's up 1/2 inch. And you want to go ahead and remove the backing. Fold your material over. Press it down on that tape. Remove the backing from the tape that is just to the side of your center line. And then fold the material back up once more. Again, just very gently pulling, and you'll have a 1/2 inch space between these two folds. Fold that back up to the top. And then you'll see you have actually some excess material. You can go ahead and trim that off right at the line, or you can fold it back down. What I found through my testers, their experience with this was that sometimes if they were using thinner vinyl, you'll see when you fold this over, your top pocket wants to kind of poke up. So my recommendation at this point moving forward is going to be, and I'll change this in the pattern, to actually trim this so that it's even with the line. And then go ahead and take another piece of double-sided tape. This is gonna help just through the process. And there we go. And this will help you, sorry, bear with me, this tape doesn't want to cooperate. All right, let me try the other end. There we go. So when you go to fold over, this will at least help the back stay in place a little bit better. So line up the edges, and this will hold the back down. It's not going to fix the front completely, but it will at least help you hold that in place while you're getting ready to prep the rest. So actually that did help significantly. So I think that's what I'm going to do going forward. That's the first time I did it that way. But you can see now that the top of my pocket is not poking up at all. It's actually more snug than the other two that aren't poking up. So that's the way I'm going to do it going forward. I'll update the pattern. And then, so you're almost done with this piece, and I'll be right back. I've got to take a quick picture of that. I'm back. So we've got our piece folded in half, and then laying on the table, this is your rounded edge, which is actually going to be on the corner, the left corner of your wallet, the left bottom corner. What I want you to do is, starting at your top left corner, about 1/8 of an inch from the side, sew across the top, and then down the right side, which is the folded edge. Again, stopping about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And this seam across the folded edge also helps keep that top of the pocket from poking up, now that everything is held snugly in place. There we go. You can backstitch here and at the start and stop if you want to. I'm still going to go ahead and pull my threads through to the back. But if you prefer to backstitch, that's fine. It's not going to make that big of an impact on the finished look here. So at this point, you've got your card slot piece finished with the exception of edge paint. If you are doing the vinyl version, all you're going to edge paint is the top. If you are doing the fabric version, at this point you will edge coat all of the raw edges. So all 3 sides except the folded edge are going to be painted at this point if you're doing the fabric version. Let's get started on our ID window slots. You will have your piece with your window and slot cut out of one side and then a solid piece on the other side. We're going to go ahead and start by sewing a line just like we did on the card slots. If you're looking at it like this with the rounded edges on the top, you'll be sewing just to the left of the slot on the side closer to the window hole. So again, starting just inside of the circle, go ahead and sew at a 1/8 inch seam allowance all the way across the bottom. This is not sewing anything to the back of it. It's not connecting anything. This is strictly cosmetic so that it matches your card slots. So we'll go ahead and finish this off. Okay. Let me pull my threads through. And you'll notice I've already put my double-sided tape on the left and right of the ID window opening. And that is just in preparation for sticking the vinyl in place here. One more. There we go. So go ahead and remove the backing from your double-sided tape. And then, where did my clear window go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Go ahead and center your clear vinyl over the opening so that it's held in place with the double-sided tape. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but you want to get it as straight as possible, or your little thumb hole that you use to slide your ID out of your of the slot will be crooked. This is a little bit tricky, at least for me, obviously. There we go. So go ahead and, now that that's stuck down in place, flip your work over to the right side. I'm going to adjust my tension a little bit because this vinyl's thin and I had it turned down, and the clear vinyl I'm using is pretty thick. So go ahead, and again I prefer to use the long tails just because it leaves a nicer finish. Start on one of your long sides and sew all the way around at a 1/8 inch seam allowance, going slow on your corners. Making sure they're a nice, smooth, rounded corner. Make sure your needle is down when you're pivoting so your work doesn't shift. And then finish right where you started, pulling the thread out of the way. Go ahead and take the threads and pull them to the back. When you're tying off and heat sealing your threads here, you want to make sure that you pull them to the side so that they don't end up sticking to the visible part of your window. Otherwise you'll have like these little melt marks or tails sticking into your window area. So as you kind of singe them off, push them up away from the visible window area. So this is what you have so far. You've sewn around and then you've sewn under here. Flip your work over so that you have the wrong side up. Go ahead and mark your center line. We've still got our curved edges at the top. I'm going to go ahead and mark a line vertically right down the center. And then I'm going to place a piece of double-sided tape to the right of that line on the card slot side. Wow, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Go ahead, that's fine. You can still mark your center. But on the right side, what we want to do is grab our zipper pocket. I'll be right back. And you want to lay your zipper pocket on top of your ID window piece with your closed zipper tab facing up. And then go ahead and align that, the bottom edge of your zipper pocket, you'll want to come in 1/4 inch from the left and down 1/4 inch from the top. So line that up just like that. You can use a piece of double-sided tape to hold this in place if you feel like you need to. I'm going to go ahead and just sew right down the edge. And you're going to sew along this edge using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Oops, it shifted. See, that's why I should have used tape. Let's see, get it lined back up here. There we go. So get that under there. And then again, back stitch at the beginning and end here, because you want this to stay put. This needs to be where you put it. All right. Go ahead and trim your threads. So this is what it will look like. You can fold your zipper to one side, you'll see your ID window, fold it back and you'll have this part. Now at this point, we will go back to where I was previously. And you want to apply your ID window backing. Let's go ahead and make it look like the pictures in the pattern so you can follow along. Again, you have your curved edges at the top. I'm going to go ahead and remove the double-sided tape from that next to the line and apply your ID window backing just to the right of your center line, and it should be just slightly smaller than that half. You're going to have just a slight little overlay there. And then on this curved corner, you may need to just ever so slightly trim the corner because of it being a curved edge, so it doesn't stick out. At this point, we want to go ahead and fold this entire piece in half. And you can kind of pull the zipper pocket out of the way here. What I'm actually going to do, like I mentioned in the previous one, which I will add to the pattern before I publish, I'm going to go ahead and add another piece of double-sided tape on the other side of the line to hold that top of the slot down. So let's go ahead and fold this in half now. It does kind of want to fight me because that slot wants to stay where it is. But once you get one edge started, it goes a little bit easier. Just line your corners up. Make sure your side edges are down and then press this into place. There you go. And that is actually holding it really nicely with the double-sided tape. So I feel a lot better about that. At this point, we will go ahead and do the same thing we did with the other one except opposite. We started at the left corner, now we're going to start at the right corner. So this is your piece looking at it. You have your zipper pocket on the left and your flap on the right. You're going to want to start at the top right corner, go across the top, and then down the left folded side with your 1/8 inch seam, just to top stitch those two together. However, in this case, you also need to make sure that your zipper pocket is pulled out of the way but not shifting your work. So what I think I'm going to do is actually start at the bottom left, go up the folded side, and across the top to the right. I think that'll be a little bit easier in this case. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, your pocket is folded out of the way, so it's not getting stuck in these stitches. Okay. Across here. And then once you get to this point, you can go in a few stitches away from the edge. Once you get about halfway down this piece, it will be easier to put your needle down, raise your presser foot, and flip your zipper pocket to the other side so you're not fighting it with a big lump here. Go ahead and lower your presser foot and continue on to the far edge. Okay? Now that we have sewn those two sides, this is what you have. You've got, oops, let me move that light. Your zipper pocket is attached to your ID window. The zipper pocket is lined up right with the corner and angles upwards, so that when your wallet is closed, everything will, your zipper pocket is going to be centered with the wallet exterior, and your flaps are going to be aligned with the bottom corners of your wallet, so everything is centered. I'm going to go ahead and pull my threads through and we will move on to the next step. Again, if you're doing the vinyl version, all your edge painting at this point is the top edge. If you're doing the fabric version, go ahead and edge paint excuse me, all three sides. Hey everyone, we are back. What I have gone ahead and done is aligned, I've got my wallet exterior with the lining attached, the shell we did before. I have taken my card slot piece and aligned that bottom left curved corner with the bottom left curved corner on the lining side of the shell. And then on the right, I have done the same thing with the ID window pocket, and I have lined up the bottom right corner with the bottom right corner and clipped all the way around very well so it stays in place and doesn't shift as we're sewing. I like to start on one of the edges of about halfway through. It's important that you don't start at one of the four corners where these flaps end, because your seam there will not be as strong. I'm going to go ahead and start on the bottom about halfway, about the halfway point of the ID window. And all you need to do here is just slowly and carefully sew all the way around the perimeter of your wallet using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. I am going to leave long tails, but you don't have to. There are detailed instructions in the pattern about both options with pictures. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing around. I know some people like to use a little tool, I guess it's called a hump jumper. I've never used one for the little gap on the spine because it goes down a little ways. I'm going to move my zipper pocket out of the way as I go across here. And I'm just adjusting my tension since I went through less vinyl there. And then just continue all the way around. And I'm just going to double check. There we go. Yep. I didn't check my tension before. And then go all the way around. And then you can go slowly around the corners just to make sure you're getting a nice smooth curved edge. Back down the straight side. You may want to lower your tension as you get to the top because it's only 2 layers versus the 4. It really is just going to depend on your machine. You'll be familiar with your machine and know what you need to do. I'm just going to double check mine before I go too far, and it looks good. So I'll get probably a little over halfway across the top. And I'm going to go ahead and flip my zipper pocket back over so it's out of the way again. And continue down. And go slowly around your corners. Go as slow as you think you need to. There's no rush. You've already spent all this time and effort on your wallet. You don't want to mess it up because you're rushing in the end. And then down this last side. This side you want to just go extra slow because you've got kind of an uneven edge because of the clear vinyl, and your window adds a little bit of thickness on the left side. You'll be fine going over it, just go slow. Make sure everything stays in place and doesn't shift on you. There we go. And then we are back to where we began. One more stitch and finish up exactly where I started. I'm going to take my long tails. So there you have it. It is a basically finished wallet. This is the front. You open it up. You've got your card slots and your little flap there, your zipper pocket, your ID window pocket, and then right behind everything is your cash slot where you can put your bills and receipts and paper items. Your zipper should align right at the edge. You can put your little change and bits and pieces in there. What I like to do with my tails, since I did the long tail instead of back stitching, which again is completely fine if you do back stitch. Sorry about that, my phone's going off. And then let's see, I just put both of the pieces on this side through, and then I'm going to go through the next hole, but not all the way through. I'm coming up, let me see if I can zoom in on you here. Alright, so I'm bringing the needle through between the two layers and just pull those two threads all the way through. Repeat the same thing, repeat the same thing with the other two threads on the opposite side. Let me grab those and do that real quick. Poke those through really quick and have them come out at the same place your first two did. So we'll do that. And then what you want to do is go ahead and tie those together very firmly, but not so much that you're going to pull the vinyl and make the stitches look strange, but just enough so that they get pulled down in between the layers. Go ahead and do that, and then trim. Oops, please excuse my barking. My helper hears something. Shh. And then we'll go ahead and heat seal those ends. And I'm just going to tuck them, tuck them down into between the layers. And you won't even see that after you edge paint. So there you have it. All you have left is your edge painting, and a lot of times at this point your wallet is going to fight you to stay closed. This one is actually staying closed really well, but depending on the materials that you use, your wallet may just continue to flop open. Take something heavy, a book, stick it under the corner of your mattress, whatever you decide to use, and just leave it overnight. And then when you pull it out the next day, it will lay nice and flat and squished into submission. I hope this helped you guys with making your wallet. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing what everybody makes.